How could somebody as big as Tweet just vanish? She worked with people like Madonna, Timbaland, Missy Elliott, shared a manager with Beyonce, and even hit #1 on Billboard charts. So where is she now, and what exactly happened to her career?
So I'm excited to be able to present again some music to the world.
Tweet hit the scene in the early 90s and was a quiet force at first, but made a loud splash as she dropped her debut album. Then, in the mid-2000s, she sort of went missing. She worked closely with top producers like Timbaland under major labels and even put out a track that ranked #7 on the Billboard Hot 100. But personal problems, label mismanagement, and bad timing may have ultimately foiled this R&B legend's chances of remaining a pop icon for all time. She could have been a Missy Elliott or a Mary J. Blige had things gone differently, but now it's hard to even figure out where she is or what happened to her. Tweet is the youngest child of Tom and Shirley Keys. Her family has always been passionate about music. As a kid, the family performed together at church on Sundays. This is where Tweet really got her start as a singer, the confidence to perform, and her passion for music. Between Tweet and her 4 siblings, they had mastered the piano, guitar, bass, drums, and a couple more instruments. During her adolescence, Tweet found musical inspiration in the work of Janet Jackson, Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, and Whitney Houston. She actually would get to work with Whitney later on in her life. The influence of some of these artists can be seen in Tweet's later work. Tweet began more formal vocal training in public school when she attended Rochester's School of the Arts. After graduating, Tweet gave birth to her daughter, Shauna, in 1990 at the age of 19. Having a baby that young is no easy task, and raising a child as a single mother is even harder. So in the early 90s, Tweet decided that the best thing to do for her daughter and herself was to leave Shauna with her parents in Panama City, Florida. This gave Shauna the stability she needed and allowed Tweet to pursue a music career and travel around the country. She needed her music career to work out so that she could afford to support her daughter. After traveling around seeking music opportunities, Tweet found a girl group to work with. She joined Suga in 1994. The group was composed of Susan Weems, Rolita White, and Tweet. Suga was a part of Devontae Swing's Swing Mob Collective. In case you're unfamiliar, Devontae Swing, or Donald Earl DeGrate Jr., is a producer, rapper, and songwriter. He's known for discovering the likes of Timbaland, Missy Elliott, and several other big artists. Swing also mentored Flo Rida and was sort of a big deal in the early 90s. Tweet made some lifelong friendships and business connections while working under Devontae Swing's collective. She met Timbaland, Genuine, Magoo, and Missy Elliott. The friendship between Tweet and Missy proved to be the most important connection Tweet made while a part of Suga. They became really close friends while they were both a part of the collective. In 1999, Tweet realized that Suga wasn't going anywhere. The group was dead in the water, so to speak, and Tweet needed to move on. So she cut ties and got out, leaving both Suga and the Swing Mob Collective. With Suga disbanded, Tweet ended up moving back into her parents' place in Panama City, Florida. She was penniless and depressed at the time, and all she had were broken promises. She didn't even have an album to show for her dedication to Suga and the collective. These were arguably her prime singing years, and they were spent in a group that hardly got the ball rolling. Tweet is said to have developed a serious case of depression at this time. It seems like her mental health was terrible during this time, and it's no wonder why. Tweet was working a variety of jobs to pay the bills instead of working on her music career. Tweet was in a pretty bad headspace and needed serious change. She needed to get back into music. Missy Elliott changed the trajectory of Tweet's life with a single phone call. She had been rescued from the monotony of her Panama City jobs, and her music career was about to take off. Missy asked her to contribute background vocals on Missy's 3rd studio album, Miss E, So Addictive. Tweet happily obliged. Miss E, So Addictive received universal acclaim when the album was released, selling over 150,000 copies in its first week. The album also hit number 2 on Billboard's Top 200 and number 1 on Billboard's Top R&B and Hip Hop chart. Tweet was featured on the intro track So Addictive and had vocals on a total of 5 tracks. This was a turning point for Tweet and her music career. She called Missy her guardian angel because she really did rescue Tweet from depression and hardship. Her being featured on a top chart album was a career boost to say the least. After the success of Missy's album, Tweet began to get other backup singing work on albums. She contributed vocals on Ja Rule's Pain Is Love, Petey Pablo's Diary of a Sinner First Entry, Bubba Sparks' Dark Days, Bright Nights, and Timbaland and Magoo's Indecent Proposal. The paychecks didn't stop there. Tweet was about to release her own hit single. With the success of Missy's album and a string of notable contributions to songs released by major artists, Tweet had secured enough clout to put out a track with her own name on it. She was ready for a major hit of her own, and fans were too. Oops Oh My was Tweet's debut single. It was released in January of 2002 under Missy Elliott's The Goldmine Inc. label and was a major commercial success. It reached number 7 on Billboard's Top 100, number 1 on Billboard's Top R&B, and number 5 in the UK charts. The track itself was produced by Timbaland and written by Tweet and Missy Elliott. A few months later, in April of 2002, Tweet released her debut album, Southern Hummingbird. It received mostly strong reviews, but wasn't the home run her career needed. It did, however, debut at number 3 on Billboard's Top 200 and sold 195,000 copies in its first week, and by 2015 had sold nearly 897,000. The album featured Timbaland, who produced 4 tracks, Craig Brockman, Neeson Stewart, and guitarist John Jubba Smith. It also featured guest vocals from Missy Elliott. The album was filled with powerful and soulful R&B vocals that swelled to Tweet's emotional lyrics. Dot Music commended Tweet on her vocals, saying she has the kind of voice that doesn't overpower her music but lets it breathe. BBC Music said Southern Hummingbird was the stuff of real divas. Tweet's inherent melancholy further confirms the musical rite of passage in the tradition of other soul greats such as Aretha, Mary J. Blige, and Billie Holiday. Tweet had clearly channeled the musical geniuses she adored as a kid into this album. There was also some more critical reviews saying the album lacked a diversity in sound. To promote the album, Tweet worked double time to get her name and her album out there. She opened for Craig David on his American tour dates and also opened for Mary J. Blige in between. After the album, things sort of continued to go well for her. She wasn't a big pop star, but she had her name out there, and she had some decent clout in the R&B scene now. Tweet, in the same year after releasing her album, performed guest vocals on Trina's second single, Diamond Princess. She also contributed to 4 tracks on Missy's album, Under Construction. Under Construction featured some of Missy's biggest tracks, including Work It and Gossip Folks. Tweet also contributed guest vocals on Madonna's American Life. In that same year, Tweet was nominated for the Soul Train Lady of Soul Award, among a few others, for Best New Artist. She was also awarded the Key to the City for Rochester, New York. Her success didn't stop there. Tweet released a second big single around that time, Call Me. It reached number 9 on Billboard's Top R&B and Hip Hop chart and number 31 on Billboard's Top 100. It was also used in Verizon ads, which helped Tweet grow her fan base. Tweet was doing pretty well for herself around this time and was starting to make good money. In 2003 and 2004, Tweet and her producers felt it was time to put out a second album. It was supposed to be released in early 2004, but record label changes and constant pushbacks completely ruined the release schedule. Progress was going nowhere, but Tweet was offered the chance to tour with CeeLo Green and Tidra Moses on the 2004 Seagram's Gin Live tour, so she took it while she was waiting. The tour was used to promote her new song, Turn the Lights Off, a track produced by Elliott and Kwame. It featured Missy's vocals and even sampled some Nat King Cole and Marvin Gaye. By March of 2005, the label had settled down enough and the time had come for Tweet's album to be released. Tweet's production team and management shifted around during the label changes. As a result, Tweet was forced to remove 6 tracks of hers from the album. The album was gutted before its release. As a result, only 55,000 copies were sold in the first week. Sadly, it was a bit of a commercial failure. The album itself was good. It even peaked at 17 on the Billboard album chart, but it quickly fell off. This was clearly due to a lack of promotion and complete mismanagement by Atlantic Records. This is the sort of tragic point in her career. She promptly dropped her manager, Mona Scott, and Violator Management and signed with Matthew Knowles of Music World. Knowles is a heavyweight when it comes to managers. He has worked with the likes of Solange, Sunshine Anderson, Destiny's Child, and Beyonce. Tweet was just trying to get the momentum of her career going after Atlantic Records totally dropped the ball on her second album. She had put in so much at this point and was getting close to the top, and a big manager like Knowles was an effort to help her climb those last few steps. Tweet continued to do features at this time during all of the changes. She actually even appeared on Elliott's 6th album release. In 2007, Tweet changed things up again and signed with Gerald Busby and Mike City's record label Umbrella Recordings. In doing so, she parted ways with Missy Elliott's Goldmine Inc. It's unclear why she did this, but one can speculate. She may have felt like her career wasn't being given the attention it needed. In that same year, Tweet got to perform with Timbaland, Nelly Furtado, and a few other big pop stars at the annual VH1 Hip Hop Honors, honoring the work of Missy Elliott. The time had come for Tweet to make her final push and release a 3rd studio album. She began work on her 3rd album, initially titled Love Tweet, produced by Neeson Stewart and Warren Campbell. She preceded it with a T.I. collaboration in a single, Goodbye My Dear, in an effort to help promote it. However, the release of the album never happened, and years passed before there was any change. In 2010, Tweet split from Umbrella. In that same year, Tweet had major mental health issues that got to her. Perhaps it was the stress of a studio sitting on her unreleased 3rd album, or perhaps it was money trouble. There's no saying why, but one thing is clear: 2010 was a hard year for Tweet. Tweet was sort of quiet after 2010 until late 2011, when she signed with MC Lyte's label Dubo's Music Group. In 2012, Tweet sort of re-emerged and began to release some of her unreleased material from her 2nd album and unreleased 3rd album. And in 2013, she actually released an EP, Simply Tweet with Dubo's. The EP was recorded live with a full band and managed to reach the top 30s on Billboard's independent albums and R&B charts. From all this, it's clear that Dubo's actually tried to back Tweet effectively and launched a campaign to get her sound out there. The SoundCloud release and the EP was an attempt to reinvigorate her career, but it was clear she had probably reached the peak of her career already. In 2016, Tweet finally released her 3rd album, Charlene. She got to team up with old friends Timbaland and Missy Elliott on it. She released Charlene under the independent label E1 Music. The album peaked at 42 on Billboard 200 and hit 4 on the US Independent Albums Billboard. It took her ages to finally release a 3rd album despite being in the music industry for nearly 30 years at this point. Suffice it to say, Tweet has had a rough go with managers and record labels. They neglected her, failed to rep her albums, and continually failed to promote her work. As a result, Tweet has sort of fallen out of the public eye since her debut in the 90s. In 2016, Pastor Jamal Bryant introduced Tweet on TV as the first lady of the show and declared that he had intentions of making her his last lady. It was quite a moment to behold, but they eventually had a big breakup. His super public dedication of love may have not been his best move in retrospect, because on Instagram Live, Tweet actually really spoke out against megachurches and their money-hungry ways. She was clearly left jaded after that breakup. Tweet says that she is still devout in her faith, she just doesn't deal with churches anymore. You can still find Tweet today. She has the odd interview and is still putting herself out there. In 2016, Tweet also performed backup vocals on Solange's album Seat at the Table, so writing off a 4th album from Tweet isn't a good idea. She may still have more cards in her hand, and it's clear she still has an audience that supports her. Her debut single Oops Oh My has over 32 million plays on Spotify. identify. In retrospect, it's clear Tweet needed the right record producers behind her, but they were never there to support her. She clearly worked hard and dedicated her life to her career for 30 years. Tweet hit the scene in the 90s despite immense financial and personal problems, rose to fame in the 2000s, and then sort of vanished in the 2010s. One thing is clear, her albums and her supporting vocals on other albums make her an R&B staple of the 90s and the early 2000s. Tweet may not be a Beyonce or Missy Elliott, but she clearly worked just as hard as them, and her work is just as powerful. We want to hear from you. Was there anything you learned about Tweet that you didn't know before? Let us know down in the comments. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Thanks for stopping by the taco, and we'll see you soon.